the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge, which is technically the thinnest commercially available smartphone right now at just 5.8 millimeters. So around 163 grams. You could argue that there are thinner phones because of the foldable category, which are thinner when they are unfolded, but when they're folded, they're thicker. So, I'll let you guys debate that in the comments.
Thinnest traditional smartphone.
Yeah, thinnest traditional smartphone, let's call it that. Okay, so having used it for a bit, like initially it's like, who's this phone for, right? That's the question that everybody's been asking. One thing that I will say is you can see as many videos as you want. You can see comparisons of it, next to things like the S25 Edge and other smartphones. But when you feel it in hand, there is just something special about it. It's just something special about it, isn't it?
Oh, yes. It's, I think the question you asked at the very beginning is, who's this phone for? And it felt that way when I was doing the unboxing. But once you take it out and you hold it, you're like, yeah. Okay. That's my emotional reaction while unboxing the phone.
Now it is durable. It feels premium because of the titanium frame. They've also got the Corning Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2, which is the first device for that. So in my usage, it's been quite durable. In my opinion, if you're really going to use this device, if you're thinking of buying it, you want it without a case, right? I mean, if you're going to have such a thin device and you're going to stick a case on it, is it really worth it? Granted, it's going to be thinner compared to a regular smartphone, even with a case. But yeah, there's just something I think you kind of need to have this phone naked if you want to truly appreciate just how thin it is. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I have found some really thin cases that do work well. But even with those cases, like, friends have kind of been like, hey, do you have the Edge? And I'm still like taking it off because I really want them to experience it. And then they hold it and they go, oh. And they're like, should I get this over the Ultra? I'm like, okay, let's talk.
Okay. So now let's talk about that. So now, look, cameras, very familiar. Like, this is the thing, after using this device, put the thinness aside, it's a very familiar device. It's a Samsung. You've got One UI, you've got Galaxy AI, so all of the Galaxy AI suite is there. Cameras as well. You've got the 200 megapixel camera, you've got the 12 megapixel ultrawide. Again, feels very familiar. Did I miss the telephoto camera, the periscope zoom camera? Now, coming from the S25 Ultra, yes, I did. However, if you're not coming from something like the S25 Ultra, which does have that extended zoom, are you really going to miss it? I'd say probably not.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's one of those things where my use case for the last 2 weeks, because I've been traveling and I went to Computex. So I'm in Taipei, I'm in a different country. You're going to use that, periscopic zoom immediately. You're going around places, you're seeing stuff. And I tried to do it and I was like, oh, I got that feeling. But I do agree that, I think sometimes it depends on your situation, especially if you're just at home. But because I was traveling, that skewed my opinion to that level. I personally feel like you could add a third camera to this though, because it's a camera hump. That's just my own perception.
You couldn't, not a periscope. You could get a telephoto, so maybe three times. But
yeah, exactly.
The thing is, though, with this, because it's 200 megapixels, you can get lossless to 2x easily, right? You're going to get absolutely fine. And it does extend, and you still get good results. Obviously, Samsung has their software processing for extended zoom as well. It's just not going to be to the level of, obviously, the S25 Ultra, which I think we're kind of a niche because we're used to that. We're used to that extended zoom. I don't think everybody else is. So if you're not used to something and then you kind of come to here, I don't think you're necessarily going to miss it. Like if, for instance, there are a lot of iPhone users, for instance, who you just buy the regular iPhone, right? They'll only get like the 16, not the 16 Pro or the Pro Max. And they haven't experienced extended zoom, for instance. I'm just giving you an example. And maybe somebody who's on an older Samsung device, maybe they're on the Flip, which doesn't have a zoom camera. Are you going to really miss it? No, you're not going to miss the zoom camera. So I think it depends on your personal use case, of course, as always. But I think in my usage, as I said, the day-to-day usage has been very familiar. You know you're using a Samsung, everything, you've got all of the features. There are actually not that many compromises when it comes to particular things. Like, for example, I wasn't expecting this to have wireless charging. It does have wireless charging, right? I thought to make it thinner, they're not going to include the wireless charging coils. You can even reverse wireless charge on this if you want it, okay? You probably wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, we'll get to that. It's also got a Quad HD Plus resolution display, which I wasn't expecting, okay? I thought they're not going to do that. If I'm honest with you, you probably don't want to put it onto Quad HD Plus resolution. You probably want to stick to Full HD Plus resolution. And that is because of the battery life. Now, as expected, being a thinner device, physically, we were expecting a smaller battery, which we do have, a 3,900 milliamp hour battery, which is smaller than what we have even on the base S25. And, around 20% smaller compared to something like the S25 Ultra or the S25 Plus, okay? I guess the question everybody is kind of asking and wondering, how is the battery life on this, right? So for me personally, I would say, of course, it's nowhere as good as the S25 Ultra. The S25 Ultra gets me through the day absolutely fine, maybe a little bit more. You just have to remember that you're going to get around 20% less battery life compared to something like the S25 Ultra. Is that good enough for you? If the S25 Ultra would have lasted you a day and a half, then this is going to last you a day comfortably, right? If the S25 Ultra was only lasting you about a day because you're a heavy user, then this is not going to last you the full day. And that's the way I really see it. Now, you actually used this when you were out in Taipei traveling. What was your experience like?
This is quite interesting. So you know how with especially Galaxy devices lately, it takes roughly around a week for it to start getting to understand, the battery management, how you're using the device. So on the one hand, the first week I was in the US, and then the next week I changed locations and I'm traveling. My battery life, once I landed in Taipei, the first day was not great. And what I mean by not great is when I was in the US, my battery life, I would wake up around like 8 o'clock in the morning and my phone would last me till about 8 at night. Now, some people say that's not great, but I am a heavy user. So compared to most average users, I think it's fine for them. Taipei, by like 5, it was cutting off. So I had to switch on power saver mode initially. And that actually pushed it to almost around 10 for me while I was in Taipei, because also this was the only phone I used because I had Google Fi on here. So I had like full internet connection and everything while using the device. So I would say for me as a power user, this actually worked out as long as I had the power saving mode on throughout the whole day. And, I was able to watch content on TikTok, on, IG, go ahead and use my phone for emails, all that fun stuff. So I think it's good. It's just not for the S25 Ultra user, because that's a power user. That's somebody that literally is expecting to maximize the device as much as possible. For an everyday user, I think they've done a good job here. Whether it's a combination of the Snapdragon 8 Elite, the battery management in there as well. The fact that One UI is also more optimized, like all those things kind of come into play. So I think it's fine.
I think the 8 Elite is definitely a factor because that is a very efficient chipset. So, it does help you get the battery life. You just have to remember that it's not going to be as good as other devices out there. That's just something that you're going to have to, that's something that I guess when you're going in, if you're thinking of getting the S25 Edge. And also, some people wondering, why is there no faster charging? It's only 25 watts. There's no 45 watts. It's a smaller battery, so it charges up quicker, right? To fill it up, the charge is quicker. So, if you are somebody who maybe puts your phone onto a wireless charger, when you're on your desk, maybe you're somebody who plugs in your smartphone when you're in your car. If you're doing those kinds of things where you are giving it a little bit of a, like maybe a 10, 15 minute boost in the middle of the day, you're going to be absolutely fine. If you're somebody who's not a heavy user, using it day to day, you should be fine. If you are a heavy user and you're going to be on your phone a lot, then this smartphone is not for you. Apart from that, it is quite interesting what they've done. I think the few reasons that we've kind of discussed before, Samsung wanting to get in there before Apple, and also maybe they're just testing the market, seeing what is the demand for a device like this, then we can develop this technology further. And also the thin technology kind of translates nicely to the Fold, which we are hoping to see in the next couple of months as well.